What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, back with an amazing guest this week that I'm so excited to introduce you to. But before I do that, I just want to remind you to make sure to go to suburbanwarriorpodcast.com to check out your free download of the From Pause to Power Menopausal Roadmap. This is all the information I wish I had 10 years ago when I was starting my journey, and it's free for you. So be sure to check that out. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter, because that is basically all of the top headlines of all of the podcasts right in your inbox each week, and it is an amazing resource as well. But without further ado, let me introduce to you McCall McPherson. She is a pioneering physician associate and entrepreneur in thyroid, hormone, and metabolic health. All the things we love to talk about on this podcast. As founder of Modern Thyroid Clinic and Modern Weight Loss and owner of Thyroid Nation, she combines medical expertise with personal experience to offer innovative solutions as well as a unique, balanced approach to wellness. A TEDx speaker, honored in the top 200 fastest growing health companies on 2024's Inc. 5000 list, a 2025 Top 500 Inc. female founder, and the host of the podcast, Modern Thyroid and Wellness. Welcome to the podcast, McCall.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat.
And me too. So, like I said, when we were chatting briefly before we started recording, I am like fangirling a little bit because in the health and wellness space, I think that you are just amazing. If people don't follow you on your socials already, I'm sure they will by the end of this podcast, but you offer so much information on both TikTok and Instagram. And specifically for me, what I saw that I gravitated to was all of the information around thyroid, because for me, I've struggled with hypothyroidism since I was diagnosed in my early 20s. So it's been over 25 years. And it is very, very difficult to find a clinician that can treat you appropriately. And we'll get into that as we get into the podcast. So first and foremost, thank you for being here. I think you're amazing. So tell us, though, about you and your story and sort of how this journey got you to specializing in thyroid and weight loss.
Yeah, great question. So I had struggled with thyroid issues since I was about 19. Did, all right, but had my ups and downs like so many of us do, and was practicing medicine, had already graduated PA school at 27 and completely hit a wall. I was literally spending 16 hours a day in bed.
Wow.
I would be in bed from the moment I got home from work until the moment I had to get ready to go to work the next day. Weekends were literally spent in bed, resting enough to recover and prepare for the following week. And it was a sad life. I mean, I knew enough. Obviously, I had every symptom of hypothyroidism: weight gain, fatigue, hair loss. I don't think I had any eyebrows by that point. Depression, my executive function was at an all-time low. And went to my doctor. I was already on Synthroid and was like, hey, I think I need a medication increase. I'm having all these thyroid symptoms. And was told immediately, no, your TSH is fine. It's not your thyroid. Eat less, exercise more. When I went back with like a little post-it of more labs, because back then all this information wasn't readily accessible. I was trained in a traditional model of medicine, right?
Totally.
So did research, did recon, went back and was completely dismissed, rejected. He tried to put me on Lipitor for my high cholesterol that was due to my thyroid problem. And I looked at the rest of my life in my mind and was just flabbergasted that he would expect me to live like this forever, and knew soon I'd be on disability, right? I was just non-functioning. Got on the wait list for one of the only integrative medicine docs back then in Austin, waited months and months to see him, saw him. And my life started to turn around really quickly once I did. He did a full thyroid panel. He used more progressive medications. From that point, I learned everything I could from him, from studies, from any resource that I possibly could. And I started using these models with my patients in my little integrative psychiatry practice. Eventually, like 80% of my new patients were for thyroid. They had heard about what I'd done. Patients had spread the word over thyroid advocacy platforms. And eventually, when my first patient flew in to see me from out of state, I was like, oh my God, I'm totally doing the wrong thing. Like, I'm not supposed to be doing psychiatry. Like, thyroid is my thing. And I didn't even know I love doing this. And, from that Modern Thyroid Clinic was born. And, in my lifetime, I really hope to make thyroid care accessible across the nation. And we're basically there already. And to give people, even who never become our patients, resources and information that they can use to be able to get their lives back, because you and I know this is a complicated landscape, and the last thing people can do is sit back and just take whatever their doctor or clinician says at face value and expect to thrive in the world of thyroid, because that's certainly not the case for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is really an amazing story, especially it's like, your purpose really found you,
Yeah,
which is,
absolutely.
I just love when that happens. But, it's so funny because listening to your story, I think back, to mine, to so many of my clients, and even still today with all of the information that we have around functional and integrative medicine. And, my endocrinologist, who I really just have go see for a yearly checkup, because I really have my gynecologist treat my thyroid now because she's more integrative and is looking thing. My endocrinologist still really only wants to do a TSH lab screening. Yeah. And she's an endocrinologist. And I've had, thyroid issues for 25 years. And it just amazes me. Why do you think that is, after all of this time, that clinicians still only want to measure a TSH and not do a full thyroid panel?
Right. I think it's multifaceted. Never have I ever seen medicine be more defensive and rigid and protective of something than thyroid. People get incredibly hostile about it when you challenge their construct of thinking, right? And a couple issues. One is medicine is generationally taught. We learn from our preceptors who are usually in their 60s, 70s, and they learn from their preceptors. So it actually takes a long time in medicine for new progressive ideas to enter the infrastructure. If I'm going to be honest, our clinical director at Modern Thyroid Clinic is a board certified endocrinologist. She was trained in traditional medicine before she kind of moved over to functional medicine. And I asked her, candidly, were you taught about thyroid physiology? Were you taught what free T3 is?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. They weren't taught basic thyroid physiology. They weren't taught about various classes of medication and how to effectively use them. And I think the other piece of it is doctors are burnt out. Like, they want to practice. We're taught to practice 8-minute medicine. It's really hard to go through and educate people, go through an in-depth lab panel, explain it to people in 8 minutes. And then the last reason is I think they don't know what the information means. And I think they're uncomfortable with that situation of getting labs that they don't know how to interpret, because that wouldn't feel good, I'm sure. And so they just deny. And then the one last thing I'll add, sorry, this is so long-winded, but it's multifaceted.
I love it. It's great. It is multifaceted.
It really is. If a provider under an insurance model orders full thyroid panels over and over and over again, so an endocrinologist that sees, insurance-based patients, that insurance company will come back to them and they will say, hey, if you keep ordering all of these extra labs, we're going to drop you as a provider from our network. Wow. And so it's not that insurance won't cover the labs, which is what patients are told. In fact, I run thyroid labs full panels on patients every 3 months. And I do way more than thyroid labs every 3 months, and they're covered every time. But I don't take insurance, so they can't come back and veil threaten me, hey, we're going to remove you from our network. But they do that to insurance-based providers, and I think that's another layer of difficulty.
Yeah, and that's a huge layer, and that's a layer that most patients walking into a doctor's office really do not understand at all. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what a full thyroid panel looks like, right? So I'm assuming TSH, T3, T4, free T3, free T4, anything else?
Yeah, so TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3. I don't order total T3, anything like that. I just don't think it's necessary. And then everyone should be having antibodies run, like TPO, thyroid peroxidase, and thyroglobulin antibodies. That is all the bare minimum for a full thyroid panel. And anyone who is trying to get diagnosed or their medication managed by way of TSH alone or TSH and T4 it is like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded, hoping to hit a bullseye. Like, it's just very, very unlikely that that person's going to be able to get their lives back with such limited information.
And why is that? Why does T3, is it T3 or reverse T, like what is the one that matters so much that doctors aren't asking for?
I mean, I think all of them do, but your most important hormone is your free T3, okay? So I give an analogy of crude oil and gasoline. So crude oil is inactive, it's inert. We don't put it in our car to go somewhere, but we need it to convert to gasoline to put in our car to go somewhere. And that crude oil hormone is called free T4, okay? Yeah. That free T4 is useless. It's inert until it's converted to free T3 or your gasoline hormone. The area that most people need support in is T3. So T3 is what impacts every physiological mechanism almost that we have: our metabolism, our mood, our digestion, our hair, our skin, our hormones, our blood sugar regulation, our lipid regulation. And if we can't convert that crude oil to gasoline, we can't do any of those things effectively. And by way of using TSH and T4, which is a brain hormone and a crude oil hormone, and looking at only those two, which only some providers do, a lot of providers only do TSH. Yeah. Research shows that that reflects T3 levels, your most important hormone, only in about 1 to 2% of the time. So 98 to 99% of the time, we are not able to infer, hey, what is this person's TSH and T4 to predict what their T3 value is? So obviously, we need all of this information to make effective decisions. Reverse T3 can bind and block the landing spot of T3. So even if you check your T3 and it's beautiful, but you have incredibly high levels of reverse T3, you're not absorbing that T3. It's blocking the landing spot. So again, like, we are tripping over dollars to save pennies. We are tripping over people's quality of life to save these tiny bits of money for insurance companies, and it's silly.
Yeah, it is. And then tell me a little bit about the antibodies, because a lot of times when the antibodies are elevated, is that specifically what is Hashimoto's?
Great question. So antibodies are a direct reflection of if you have Hashimoto's or not, which is an autoimmune condition where your body attacks your thyroid gland and it erodes away that hormone secreting tissue and replaces it with scarry inflammatory tissue that doesn't work well. And that's often what leads to hypothyroidism. Research shows about 89 to 90% of people with hypothyroidism have Hashimoto's. My data is a little different than that, but that's what research says. And especially women in perimenopause and menopause, we are vulnerable to autoimmune diseases at an increased rate and incidence during those seasons. So we need to know, because Hashimoto's is not fixed by taking a pill. Your thyroid medication will not influence your Hashimoto's. It's actually dealt with lifestyle, supplementation, inflammatory influences, completely different subsets of tools, and it's actually reversible or at least reducible in so many cases, which can reduce your risk for other autoimmune diseases or just preserve more of your thyroid gland as you age. So it's so important to know. Again, it's cheap to check.
Yeah. I mean, that's really fascinating because my next question was going to be, can you reverse hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's? Can you heal from it? Because, it was my understanding, once I started taking a synthetic thyroid, which in my 20s, it was Synthroid, and Levothyroid, those. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until perimenopause, my early 40s, when everything just started, fuel on the fire, and I think everything just started burning down. But that's when I, turned to functional and integrative medicine and found Armor, NP thyroid, more of a desiccated thyroid hormone to take, and that has helped. But once you start giving your body that thyroid hormone, do you think you can reverse Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism so that you can eventually not have to take a thyroid hormone?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I want to separate out Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism as two distinct things, okay? So Hashimoto's is reversible. I'm a classic case of this. I had severe Hashimoto's. I used to have a giant goiter from it.
Oh, wow.
That I don't have at all anymore. I've been in remission for Hashimoto's for over a decade and have never gone back into a Hashimoto's state, which means my body is not eroding away my thyroid tissue so quickly. There's just like this natural slow decline as we age. So reversible, often functional medicine people are the people that do that. Regular medicine doesn't even believe that you can influence Hashimoto's, which is a lot of the reason no one's checking the labs. They're like, look, there's nothing you can do about it. We don't need to worry about it. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
We'll just deal with your medication over here.
Yep.
And so separate from that is hypothyroidism. And let's say someone has Hashimoto's like me. I had Hashimoto's, for probably 12 to 15 years before it went into remission. So for 10 plus years, my body was attacking my thyroid gland. It was tearing up that tissue, replacing it with scarry inflammatory tissue that doesn't work as well to secrete hormones because it's just not functional, right? So when I put my Hashimoto's into remission, I don't have to worry about that part anymore, but all that tissue that's been eroded away doesn't magically grow back. Right? So I've lost, probably 75, 80% of my thyroid gland. And magically, just because my Hashimoto's is gone doesn't mean, hey, I just can function without that. No, I would be diabetic. I'd have heart disease. I'd have osteoporosis and cognitive issues and mood issues. So most people, the vast majority of people who have lost true thyroid function, part of their thyroid gland does not work anymore. They're going to need to offset that loss with medication permanently. Yeah. And the idea that's kind of passed around on the internet that people with true hypothyroidism can come off meds is pretty dangerous because so early on in the hypothyroid journey, people have shifts in their long-term health outcomes that are really difficult to lifestyle your way out of. Major implications for health span, lifespan. So I don't encourage people to do that. What I encourage people to do is work on putting your Hashimoto's into remission, absolutely. Work on those tools. But find a thyroid medication that works, that makes you feel good, that you thrive, that you don't want to get rid of it because it contributes to your everyday quality of life. And be okay with that because in the long and short term, you're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, that's great. That is such great information because, first of all, the distinction between Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, that explanation was wonderful. But it is, I think it's important to understand, what you're working towards. And if you're working towards, taking, just healing your Hashimoto's, which I'm assuming is determined by when the antibodies go down and you're no longer attacking your thyroid, then you are no longer maybe in Hashimoto's, but you're in remission from it. But then again, your thyroid might still need support. So you still might need a certain type of thyroid medication in order to feel good. Do you have a preference between synthetics like a, Levoxyl or, Synthroid versus, Armour or thyroid?
Yeah, great question. So in my mind, there isn't one size fits all. One medication is right for everyone.
Right.
All of our biochemistries, our needs are unique. Like some people need a lot of stability. Maybe they don't have a thyroid gland. They're post-thyroidectomy. Some people need a lot more T3 versus T4. So it's not that I prefer synthetics versus desiccated, one over the other. But what I do prefer in desiccated thyroid is T3. So active thyroid hormone to me is incredibly important. 100% of our patients at Modern Thyroid Clinic are on some form of active thyroid hormone. I don't think everyone needs that. Like people that don't need it generally don't come to us, right? They're like, I'm good with my endocrinologist. I feel fine on my levothyroxine. Right. But I think the vast majority of people feel horrible and they don't know that there's a better way. And there are limitations even with desiccated thyroid. And I always view, it's not that it's natural that makes it better, largely in my opinion, it's that it has T3 in it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of all desiccated thyroid really has mostly inactive hormone, mostly T4 and a little T3. Yeah. Well, a lot of people can't handle that ratio. They need more T3 compared to T4. And so that they need to account for that shift. So again, it's so unique, but the one through line for me is T3 is incredibly valuable and life-changing for the vast majority of people that struggle with thyroid.
Yeah, because synthetic is all T4, correct? And it's...
You can actually have synthetic T3 too. It's a medication called liothyronine or Cytomel. It's amazing.
Okay.
Like I'm on Ren thyroid, which is a form of natural desiccated thyroid, plus Cytomel, because my stress was so high at one point, I couldn't handle all that T4, all that inactive hormone compared to T3. So I layered in a little Cytomel, but it's synthetic, but it's still active. But all T4 based meds fall under the umbrella of synthetic. So all inactive hormones are all synthetic.
So I have a question, because why are some clinicians so anti giving T3?
Yes. Let's talk about that.
I mean, I'm dying to, because I've literally, like, I told you, I'm a nurse. Like, I am an integrative health practitioner. I know this information. I mean, I go into my endocrinologist and we like debate, and I basically tell her, no, I need this, this, and this. And she does it, but not happily. She explains to me every time why she doesn't like, Armor or, MP Thyroid or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. Like, I know I didn't go to medical school, but like, I just don't get it. So what is your take on why they're so anti?
So I'm going to tell you my teaching with T3 versus T4 meds. And then I've gone to a dozen other clinicians, including our board certified endocrinologist, Dr. Smith at our practice. And I'm like, does this align with how you were taught? And everyone is like, yeah, it sure does. So my training for thyroid meds was do not use T3 based medications. Only use T4 levothyroxine synthroid-based medications.
Yeah.
If you put your patients on T3, you will give them a heart attack or a stroke. So there's a couple dynamics happening here. Number one, we are trained to be very afraid of these medications.
Yeah.
And two, we are not trained how to effectively and safely use them. We're literally not. They're like, only use levothyroxine-based meds, increase, decrease, one dose up, every however many times you check your labs, and move along. So what is so fascinating about this is, again, medicine is generational, right?
Yeah.
And we attach to old wives' tales, and we will die on that hill saying that these things are true.
Yes.
But what research shows, actually, I've been digging so deeply into this for years, but even more so because I have a book coming out in 2027. Research shows when someone has normal or high normal levels of T3, their risk of cardiovascular events reduce, which is what everyone's saying T3 drives. Their risk of cardiovascular disease reduces, dementia, Alzheimer's, obesity, depression, osteoporosis, osteopenia, which is another thing that is swung around all day, every day in medicine, saying that T3 drives osteoporosis.
Wow.
You have higher rates of mortality with T4 levels that are upper limit normal, and lower rates of mortality with T3. You have higher rates of early retirement and unemployment as your T4 goes up, and lower rates of early retirement and unemployment with T3. And people with adequate amounts of T3 earn more money and are of a higher socioeconomic status. So also studies show, look, people on T3 are not actually having cardiovascular events. They're not. Now, could they, if theoretically it was driven crazy high? Sure. Like it increases your risk for atrial fibrillation, which is dangerous. It causes increase in heart attack, strokes. But I tell you, people have transferred to me with insanely high levels of T3. And I've only ever had that happen one time with someone from another practice that had a stroke on their way to me. It has to be crazy high. We are not talking about a step or two up. We're talking about wildly inappropriate doses of medication.
Right, right. And, as you're sitting there talking about all the things that T3 can decrease, it just sounds so wildly familiar to the story of estrogen, right?
Amen, sister.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing. It's, we were deprived of estrogen for so long, and, now, again, more and more research is being done, but we're finding, especially anecdotally and in practice and with the more recent studies and meta-analyses that are being done, that it also decreases. It's protective. It is protective of our vascularity, of our brains, of our bones, of cancer.
Yeah.
And all of the above.
I love that you brought that up because you hit the nail on the head. I did a lecture on this at a medical conference a couple of months ago. Thyroid is the new women's health initiative. Like, we will look back on this time and be really disheartened and ashamed that we've cost another generation of largely women their quality of life through their most meaningful years, their ability to show up as a mother, at work, as a spouse. We will look back on this and it will be with deep regret, just like we're looking at what we did with the Women's Health Initiative. I have no doubt about it. I hope it's in my lifetime.
Yeah. And I have no doubt about it either, because I mean, I'm sure you see this too and you feel the same way. Like, I just feel like we have so far to go, but the answers are there. It's just education. It's educating, not just the clinicians, but I'm going to just say women because that's who I see and that's who this podcast is for, but educating women to be their own advocates and to educate themselves that, like, when someone just tells you you're fine or you only need your TSH checked and you're just still having these debilitating symptoms, you deserve more. You can ask for more. You can find other people that can treat you that know a little bit more, because it is truly debilitating. I mean, the brain fog, the depression, the lack of motivation, energy. I mean, no matter what phase of life you're in, you need those things to be able to function.
Amen. And, I think medicine views hypothyroidism as nothing. Like, it's not a big deal and it's fine. You just treat it with this one class of medication. And if people aren't better, thyroid symptoms are non-specific. So it must not be their thyroid. It must be something completely different. And they need to eat less and exercise more and send them on their way. When in reality, this woman's entire existence can transform in days, weeks, a couple months, once their body has the hormones that it needs. I mean, very often I tell my patients, look, I truly think that I would be on disability if someone hadn't intervened in my life so long ago. And the contrast of that between the life I live now, I run one of the top 125 fastest healthcare growing companies in the nation. I have 6 kids. I have a wonderful marriage. I travel the world. I do all of these things that I've dreamed of doing, as opposed to being in bed all day, which is literally what I would be if someone hadn't helped me. And that is important, that women receive that care and information and life-changing effects.
Yeah. And I love that you just explained all of that, because it really puts it in perspective for those not in healthcare and not in medicine to understand that hormones run the show. Right? I mean, hormones run the show. And when you're feeling off and you're feeling tired, or there's a lot of weight gain, or you're constipated, or, there's brain fog, I mean, you name it, there's something off. And I think as women, we're taught to suck it up, get out of bed, go do it. It's okay.
It's normal.
And it's normal. You're fine. I mean, I heard it for years and years and years and years. But you still just feel like complete shit, and you just keep going and trying to grin and bear it. But you don't have to grin and bear it, because there is something wrong. And our hormones are running our show. We are made up, metabolic health is key. And so getting to the bottom of that is really everything. Whether it's thyroid, autoimmune, like all of these things. So I want to talk a little bit about dosing, because I know, sometimes it's dosed really just once a day. And I feel like thyroid is also, there's a lot of talk around when you should eat, when you should take it, how many times a day. So give us, what do you think about dosing appropriately for thyroid hormone?
People are going to leave this conversation with so much constructive info. I love that you're asking all the nitty-gritty questions for them. So there's a couple classes of medication. There's T4, which is levothyroxine, synthroid, tyrosine, Levoxyl, all the ones that 96% of people are on.
Yep.
Those are long acting. Like actually the half-life of them is around 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
So it is just in your system. Doesn't really matter if you take it in the morning, night. I usually recommend people take it in the morning anyway, but you only need it once a day because it's so darn long acting. That's part of the draw of it initially when we switched from desiccated to synthetic was, oh, look, it's easy to dose. And if they miss a dose, it's not a big deal kind of a thing.
Right.
So that's easy peasy. I tell people no matter what, well, I'll get into that at the end, how to eat, etc. Okay. Now, everything else except that, desiccated thyroid, so Armour, NP, Ren thyroid, T3, that's synthetic, cytomel, liothyronine, all of those at least contain T3 in them or are pure T3. Those are short-acting medications. Okay. That T3 will peak and trough in your bloodstream anywhere, depending on the medication, from about 3 hours to 8 hours. So for women who are waking up, taking that in the morning, and crashing at 3 p.m., that's why. We are meant to have thyroid hormone, like to
no
get us
one's
through
telling
the day.
anybody that. Like, I mean, literally, no one's telling anyone that.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I started doing this and analyzing labs on, well, how do people look at peak? How do they look 8 hours later? How do they look 12 hours later? And I realized these people don't have medicine in their system for the last part of the day, overnight, etc. I was the only person doing twice a day dosing that I knew at the time. And now I think more and more people have picked up on it. I don't know if I'm the originator or what, but I'm grateful because people feel horrible. Metabolically, they're disadvantaged, hormone production, hair, anything your body needs long-acting support for thyroid for, they couldn't access because they would have T3 and then it would go away. Especially desiccated thyroid 2. To get enough T4 compared to T3, you need twice a day dosing. And then you feel good throughout the day. It doesn't really disrupt sleep. So I dose people in the morning and around 2 to 3 p.m. with any T3 based med. As far as food goes, I tell people, look, take your morning dose of medication. You can have coffee 15 minutes later or so. I actually don't find that disrupts thyroid labs and absorption. And then you can eat 30 minutes to or at least 30 minutes to an hour later. In the afternoon, it's almost more important that they have an empty stomach when they take their medicine, because when you take your medicine and then you eat, it absorbs pretty quickly. There's nothing in your gut. So I make them wait an hour after lunch at least, take their medicine and wait 30 minutes before they snack again, ideally.
Okay.
But the true difference is, look, like when people are out there fighting for their lives and they're in this terrible land of really poor hormone access, every little bit counts. And you might need to restrict food more on either side, etc. But when you're in optimal, like these tiny 5-10% deviations, you don't even feel them because you're living in a land of like you're thriving. And so it is a little unique for patients at Modern Thyroid Clinic compared to elsewhere who maybe are like, again, fighting for their lives.
Right. So if you're doing twice a day dosing, are you just equally splitting the dose?
Good question. Most people do need as much in the afternoon or close to the same amount in the afternoon that they need in the morning. So for me, I take, 60 milligrams of Ren thyroid, desiccated thyroid in the morning, and 5 micrograms of cytomel. I do that same dose in the afternoon.
Gotcha. Okay. That's amazing. Okay. I think that is revolutionary. Really.
Yeah.
Because I do think a lot of women have that 2-3 p.m. crash. And everyone says, well, it's just because you're tired, or, you're a busy mom, or you're working. And it's like, no, like there's something happening in me that is causing me to like literally crash. So
right when the kids come home from school.
right when you got to be on, and it's just it's tough. It's tough. I want to ask you what you think about, because obviously Modern Thyroid Clinic, it's also Modern Weight Loss Clinic. Weight loss and weight issues go so hand in hand with thyroid, with women in midlife, with all of these things that we're experiencing. And, with the noise and, I shouldn't say onset, GLP-1s have been around for a long time. With the better access to GLP-1s, I'm really curious to get your opinion on how GLP-1 may or may not affect thyroid disorders or function.
Good question. Again, multifaceted, but I became extremely interested in this because even when you fix someone's thyroid, if they've had thyroid dysfunction for 15 years, it's really hard to repair their metabolism and allow them to lose weight with effort, even if they're doing all the things right. So I went deep with GLPs and ended up completely fascinated by them and really passionate about it because uniquely it does allow people with thyroid dysfunction to lose weight, but more than that, it actually works to repair their metabolism so that most people come off of those GLPs and then they can actually maintain weight with appropriate efforts. They don't need to over-restrict. They don't need to over-exercise. So that's one perspective, is I'm a big fan for the metabolic repair and for the long-term health outcome implications of being on a GLP, which are pretty crazy. But specifically in the effects they have on thyroid. Number one, so I'm a data collector. That's kind of how we built Modern Thyroid Clinic and our approach and our protocols. I run an incredible amount of labs on people on GLPs with thyroid issues.
Okay.
And I even made everybody get an ultrasound quarterly for the first 3 years of our program.
Ultrasound of their thyroid?
Sure. Mm-hmm. So I could make sure there wasn't any growth or nodules, et cetera. But GLPs reduce Hashimoto's antibodies unequivocally, almost ubiquitously, almost in every single case. So didn't expect that, but it is undeniable. I'm not surprised now. I had all this data before they were doing studies on GLPs and autoimmune disease, which now we know they can slow MS progression, reduce psoriatic arthritis, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and more. But unequivocally reduce Hashimoto's antibodies. I've seen it put people into remission. It also can change the amount of thyroid medication people need in a couple ways. It can actually, while people are on it, especially in the beginning, they can need an increase in their thyroid med. They start metabolizing out their thyroid medication more quickly because of downstream changes and transport mechanisms. But then as they lose weight reductions elicit reductions in thyroid meds. We need less thyroid hormone as we lose weight. So over time, slowly, they might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a little jittery, a little caffeinated. They need to get thyroid labs done because there's a good chance you might need a reduction in your thyroid medication over time, more and more.
Yeah. Wow. That's really fascinating. And there's a lot of talk about microdosing. Do you believe in microdosing? Doses appropriate to whatever the need is, that kind of thing?
We have been doing microdosing and tailored dosing since before that word existed in this case, for sure. Great. So when we first started, we did standard dosing. I wrote 10 scripts of Zofran every day, dealt with horrible side effects. Very quickly, we started just changing the way that we dose people, tailoring it to their own unique experience. Modern weight loss is built on all of that. And I've written one script in the last 2 years for Zofran since doing that. And so many of the side effects that the media just gets swept up in are all due to rapid weight loss. People are losing weight too quickly. They're not eating enough food, nutrients, etc. So with microdosing, that's also not a problem. So you don't have the overt side effects of nausea, etc., but you also don't have rapid weight loss under eating, and it creates this win-win-win scenario. And I certainly believe the poison's in the dose with these medications.
I was just going to say the dose determines the poison. It literally that was going through my head as you were talking about it, because it's with everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
water, right?
Exactly. Too much of a good thing is too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really fascinating. And I'm glad that I feel the same way. And I think that there's just so much great information. I was at the Menopause Society meeting, and some of the new research that's coming out on the GLPs and with autoimmunity, cardiovascular. Just really so many different things. And again, just at the appropriate dose, and when you are, when you're being supported by someone who nutrition, exercise, making sure that all the other aspects of your life are being managed as well. So you're not just dropping weight and muscle mass rapidly. I think we're seeing some really fascinating
Agreed.
things with the GLPs.
I think it'll change medicine forever. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a pretty bold statement, but I feel like that's sort of the path that we're on.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, okay, so we talked about dosing, autoimmunity. I had another question, weight loss. Oh, I want to talk about just overall metabolic health, because it is just again, I feel like it's a term that is so important, but, and again, I think GLP-1s are really another big thing when it comes to metabolic health because it's our blood sugar and insulin resistance. But overall metabolic health, why is that so important that people start understanding, really why metabolic health and their own personal metabolic health is so important to their overall health?
Yeah, so I think it is one of, if not the cornerstone of our long-term health outcomes. So having a healthy metabolism, having sensitive insulin, sensitive leptin, normal optimal blood sugar, the ability to switch between burning sugar and burning stored fat fluidly multiple times throughout the day, those things determine our cardiovascular health, our likelihood of dying from the number one thing that will kill all of us. We're also geared to be afraid of cancer. Cardiovascular events, heart disease kills more people every year than all cancer combined. It's incredibly important for our ability to live health span, lifespan, and it is completely centered on our metabolic health. Not just your cholesterol, but those foundations. Insulin in general, someone's fasting insulin is one of the most predictive markers for what their lifespan and health span will look like as they age. And honing that is incredibly powerful. It also, even normal, slightly elevated blood sugar levels make you tired. They make you fatigued. They make you feel horrible. They make you malaised. It's inflammatory, inherently inflammatory. So if you want to improve your quality of life, one of the most impactful things you can do is work on your metabolic function.
Yeah. And how often do you think people should get those labs looked at? Is that every 3 months also? Like fasting insulin? Yeah. Ideal.
Yeah. If I am running labs on people, I am checking those things because... And sometimes it's quarterly. Sometimes I see my people once a year when they're stable, right? When they're in good shape. But it's incredibly valuable also to see, okay, I put in this effort for the last 90 days to 6 months. What is that doing to my labs? Objective measurements keep people accountable and motivated. And so having that power and knowing what's happening in your everyday life, how it's impacting your health is incredibly powerful. And I think information's power. So I check it quite often.
Okay. It's amazing. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So for women in midlife specifically, are there some certain supplements that you, obviously I know everyone's bio-individual and may need certain things if they're deficient in vitamin D, that sort of thing. However, are there certain supplements that maybe we don't know about that you think are just game changers for women in midlife?
For sure.
Tell us what they are.
I will.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I do and what I recommend for my patients, certainly. I think a precursor for NAD is incredibly powerful. I take True Niagen. I take the professional strength, so I get close to 1,000 milligrams a day. Absolutely changed my game. I am a highly overly productive person. I probably work 2 jobs every week in 1 job's time. So having a lot of cognitive power, energy, capacity is really important to me. And I notice a difference if I'm off of that for a week even. So that's one. I literally have these right by my desk.
Okay.
Urolithin
what is that?
A. Oh. This is Timeline's Urolithin A is so good for long-term mitochondrial health, cell membrane health, just your ability to be metabolically powered. These are the gummy version. I have 2 because that's the crazy level that I am.
I love it.
I do think everyone needs a vitamin D. I think women absolutely can use creatine as we age. For muscle, absolutely. But even for cognition, brain power, executive function, it's like fuel for our brain. And then I also take fatty, which is for your cell membranes. I just ran out. I'm stressed to order more as soon as possible. I've taken that for years as well.
And it's called fatty? That's
fatty. Yeah, it's like a fatty acid.
I love that.
It's so good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of my mainstays. And then I do astaxanthin for vanity purposes and
I was going to say, your skin is just beautiful.
Thank you. I work hard on my skin for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For thyroid people, I think this is really good. It doesn't need to be this brand, but glutathione. I'm sure you've heard of glutathione.
Yeah, yep, glutathione.
It's our body's most potent
glutathione.
antioxidant. I have like all my supplements right by my desk, clearly.
I love it. I also take NAC, which is the precursor
Yeah.
to glutathione, which I also like. I have a question about your creatine. When you take creatine, are you taking like 5 grams? I think it's grams, not milligrams,
5
right?
grams.
5 grams
That's
a
what I
day,
do.
yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. I was just wondering. Some people that I talk to are bumping it up to 10 for more cognitive, but I've stayed steady on the 5, and I'm kind of hanging out there for a little while.
I'll do extra if I'm jet lagged. It's a great
Okay.
tool to prevent jet lag with travel. I'll totally do extra. I'm a puffy person.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
creatine can make me a little puffy if I overdo it, whereas some people aren't puffy people and they could tolerate more.
Yeah.
I, by nature, I'm a puffer fish, so I don't do too much to make me too puffy.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, well, those are all amazing suggestions. I'm going to have to look up Fatty just because I love the name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cute.
It's so fun. Okay, so actually, tell my listeners a little bit more about the Modern Thyroid Clinic, because you treat people all over the country, right?
Yeah,
So
we do.
tell people how they can find you, work with you. Tell us about that.
I love that. So yeah, we started as a brick and mortar practice in Austin, and literally like our wait list got to almost 9,000 people. And I'm like, okay, we've got to figure this out. So now we are nationwide. I think we're waiting on like 3 pending states.
That's amazing.
That are just the slowest. So we're in, 48 states or something already via telemedicine. So I didn't want to do brick and mortar. I want everyone to be able to access this. All of our clinicians are our clinicians. This is their life's work. Like, it's so special. They're all absolutely incredible and dedicated to their patients and just evolving thyroid care in general. So you can find us at modernthyroidclinic.com or on social at Modern Thyroid. We even do free discovery calls. Like, if people are like, gosh, I don't know if they're the right fit, we allow you to do a free discovery call and just chat with someone from our team to figure it out. And I'm just so incredibly proud of what we've been able to do and scale to the level that we have and retain the sacred approach and connection that we have with our patients. It really is. It's what we've been able to create and maintain is something I'm incredibly proud of.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, what such amazing work, really impacting so many people's lives. It's really incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today. This has been such a fascinating conversation. You gave us so much great information. I feel like I learned a lot, and I felt, like I said, I've been dealing with thyroid for over 25 years. It is an evolving, always trying to learn more and more, especially over the last 10 years with perimenopause and menopause and being in midlife and seeing different practitioners. It's really a roller coaster. And, it is something that's really just not easy to understand, to treat. And when you're, working with the right clinician, it is life-changing. So you are really changing so many lives. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to be on the podcast, because I think my listeners are really going to get so much out of this.
Thank you so much for having me. It means the world, and keep doing your work because women need it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we will link in the show notes all of the resources and where you can find more out about McCall and her socials. And as always, you can find me at Suburban Warrior on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And please leave us a review. Let us know what you think of this episode. And we'll be back next week with another amazing Suburban Warrior here to share her story and expertise with you. See you next time.